The dock had been there longer than the HOA itself. That's what I kept reminding myself as I watched the woman in the navy blazer march across my shoreline, like she owned the place. Her heels sank into the wet sand, but she didn't slow down. She never did. People like her never slowed down. "I'm Karen Whitmore," she announced, stopping just short of the water. "President of the Lakeshore Community Association." She said it loudly, like the lake itself needed to hear her title. Stood on my dock, fishing pole in hand, enjoying a quiet morning that was now very much over. The sun was barely up, mist floating off the water, birds scattered by the sound of her voice. "And you are?" she demanded. "The guy whose dock you're standing next to," I replied calmly. Her smile was thin and sharp. "This dock is a violation." That was the moment I knew exactly how the day was going to go. She pulled out a folder bright red. Of course, Anne flipped it open dramatically. "Unauthorized structures are not permitted on community-owned water. You have 3 days to remove this dock, or the HOA will take legal action." I blinked. "Slowly, Ty asked. "This is a private lake." She laughed. Actually laughed. "Oh no, sir. The lake is maintained by the HOA. That makes it community property." I'd heard some wild HOA logic before, but this one was special. "This dock was built by my grandfather," I said, "in 1978. She waved her hand dismissively. "Irrelevant. HOA authority supersedes personal claims." There was that confidence, that absolute certainty that rules her rules bent reality itself. I climbed down from the dock and stepped onto the sand, meeting her eye to eye. "Do you have a survey?" She scoffed. "We don't need one." "Do you have a deed?" Her smile faltered for just a second before returning stronger. "We have bylaws." That told me everything. Behind her, 2 neighbors had gathered, pretending not to stare while very obviously staring. Karen turned slightly so they could hear. "We've had complaints," she announced. "Your dock blocks views and encourages unauthorized boating, and frankly, it sets a bad precedent." "A bad precedent," I repeated. "Yes, if everyone built docks wherever they wanted, they'd be building on their own land," I finished. Her eyes hardened. "You will remove this dock." I felt something old stir in my chest, not anger. Not yet. Something closer to anticipation. "No," I said simply. That single word hit her harder than yelling ever could. Her face flushed. "Excuse me." "No," I repeated. "I won't." She snapped the folder shut. "Then you leave me no choice." She leaned in closer, lowering her voice. "I will fine you. I will lien your property. And if necessary, I will have this dock removed myself." I smiled. "Good luck with that," I said. She froze, staring at me like I'd just spoken another language. "You have no idea who you're dealing with?" she said. I nodded. "You're right." And neither did she. The fines started 3 days later. First it was $250 for unauthorized shoreline modification, then $500 for non-compliance. By the end of the week, the total had climbed past $3,000. Every notice had Karen's signature at the bottom. She showed up again the following Saturday, this time with a clipboard and a man in a reflective vest. "This is a contractor," she announced. "He's here to assess dock removal. I didn't invite them onto my property. They stepped anyway." "You're trespassing," I said calmly. Karen laughed. "HOA business. We're exempt." The contractor looked uncomfortable. "Ma'am, are you sure this is it?" she snapped. "Just take photos." I pulled out my phone and started recording. Karen's smile vanished instantly. "You're not allowed to film me? This is my property," I replied. "And you're trespassing." Her voice rose. "You cannot interfere with HOA enforcement." The neighbors gathered again, whispers floating through the air. That's when Karen made her biggest mistake. She pointed at the dock and shouted, "Remove it or we'll have it seized by the county." The contractor froze. "County?" I stopped recording and smiled. "You told him the county owns the lake?" Karen hesitated. "Just a second." "Enough. I think we're done here," I said. You don't get to dismiss me," she snapped. "I'm the president, not of this land," I said quietly. She stormed off, promising lawsuits, police involvement, and serious consequences. That night, I went inside, opened an old fireproof safe, and pulled out a thick, yellowed folder. The original deed. Survey. The water rights. The lake wasn't just adjacent to my land. It was mine. The police cars arrived just after 9 in the morning. Not quietly either. Red and blue lights reflected across the water, cutting through the calm surface of the lake like cracks in glass. The sound of gravel crunching under tires echoed down the shoreline road, and within seconds, every curtain in the neighborhood twitched. People knew something big was happening. HOA drama always spread faster than wildfire. Karen Whitmore stood at the edge of my driveway like a general awaiting reinforcements. Her arms were crossed tight against her chest, lips pressed into a thin line of satisfaction. She wore sunglasses even though the sky was overcast, and she didn't look at me not once. Instead, she watched the patrol cars as if they were hers. 2 deputies stepped out, calm, professional, the kind of men who'd already dealt with 10 Arguments before breakfast. Karen rushed forward before they even reached the dock. Officers, she said loudly, making sure half the neighborhood could hear. Thank God you're here. This man has refused to comply with lawful HOA enforcement. He has constructed an illegal dock on community-owned water and is threatening association authority. The deputies exchanged a look. One of them, tall with graying hair, turned toward me. Sir, what's going on? I didn't rush my answer. I looked around instead. At the neighbors lining their porches. At the phones already raised, recording Karen standing there like she'd already won. Then I said calmly, she wants my dock removed. Karen snapped her head toward me. Because it's illegal. The deputy raised a hand slightly. Ma'am, we'll ask the questions. Her mouth snapped shut, but her foot started tapping against the dirt. The second deputy, younger, walked closer to the dock and looked down at the water. This lake is under HOA jurisdiction. Yes, Karen said immediately. Maintained, regulated, and controlled by the Lakeshore Community Association. Controlled? The deputy repeated. Exactly, she said, which means this dock violates community standards. I reached into my jacket pocket, Karen noticed, and immediately stiffened. He's interfering. I'm getting paperwork, I said evenly. I handed the older deputy a thick folder. The kind of folder that doesn't exist unless someone's been waiting a long time for a moment like this. He opened it. The first page was the D. His eyebrows lifted. Just slightly. He flipped to the next page, then another. The air changed. Karen noticed too. What is that? She demanded. Survey map? The deputy said without looking up. Karen laughed nervously. Those can be forged. The deputy turned the folder so his partner could see. The younger deputy leaned in, scanning the documents. His expression shifted, from neutral to confused. Ma'am, the older deputy said slowly. How long has the HOA existed? Karen hesitated. 22 years. And this deed, he continued, tapping the paper, dates back over 40. Karen's jaw tightened. That doesn't matter. The HOA assumed responsibility for maintenance. The deputy interrupted. Not ownership. Karen took a step closer. You don't understand? The lake is community property. The deputy finally looked up at her. No, he said firmly. It's not. The younger deputy crouched near the shoreline, pointing at the survey lines. According to this, the lake bed, shoreline, and water rights are fully deeded to this parcel. He looked at me. You own the entire lake? Yes, I replied. Karen's sunglasses slid down her nose slightly. She pushed them back up, hands shaking. That's impossible, she said. The HOA collects dues for lake upkeep. That doesn't change ownership, the deputy replied. If I mow your lawn, I don't own your house. A few neighbors gasped quietly. Karen's face flushed red. Then why has no one ever said this before? I answered calmly. Because no one ever challenged me. Silence followed. The contractor Karen had brought earlier that week stood off to the side, arms crossed, suddenly very interested in his boots. Karen turned back to the deputies. So what now? The older deputy closed the folder and handed it back to me. Now, ma'am, you stop issuing fines immediately. But the duck is legal, he said, and the HOA has no jurisdiction here. Karen opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. You're telling me, she said slowly, that the association has no authority over this lake? Yes, the deputy replied. And issuing fines under false authority could be considered harassment. That word hit her like a slap. Harassment. Her confidence shattered in real time. One neighbor whispered, she didn't own it. Another muttered, all these years. Karen took a step back. Then another. Her shoulders slumped, just slightly. The power she'd been wielding like a weapon drained out of her posture. I want this noted, she said weakly. For the record, it will be, the deputy replied, including today's call. The younger deputy glanced at Karen. Ma'am, we're going to ask you to leave the property. Karen stared at him. Leave? Yes, he said. You're trespassing? The word echoed. Trespassing. Karen turned toward me, eyes wide now, not angry, not confident, just stunned. You should have told me, she whispered. I met her gaze. You never asked. The deputies walked her back toward the road. She didn't argue, didn't threaten, didn't say another word as the patrol cars pulled away. The lake returned to silence. The neighbors slowly dispersed. I stepped back onto my dock, the wood solid beneath my feet. The lake hadn't changed. Only who thought they owned it. Had the lake didn't celebrate. It didn't ripple louder. It didn't change color. It didn't announce victory in any dramatic way. The water stayed calm, reflecting the sky the same way it always had, indifferent to power struggles, titles, and egos. But the neighborhood changed overnight. By Monday morning, the fines were gone. Every single notice that Karen Whitmore had mailed, taped, 2 doors, or slid under windshields, vanished from the HOA portal. Residents logged in expecting to see updated balances and instead found zeros. No explanations, no apologies. Just quiet erasure. I received an email from the HOA board that, Afternoon. Not from Karen. From the vice president. It was short, careful, almost surgical in its wording. After reviewing recent documentation, the association acknowledges it does not have jurisdiction over the privately owned lake or shoreline. All enforcement actions related to the dock have been rescinded effective immediately. No signature flourish, no authority, just damage control. Karen didn't come back to the lake. Not the next day, not the next week, not at all. Neighbors who once nodded politely at her now avoided eye contact when they passed her house. The same people who had applauded her strong leadership suddenly remembered unanswered emails. He's selective enforcement, and fines that never quite made sense. Whispers replaced confidence. Someone started a private group chat, then another. Story surfaced. One neighbor talked about being fined for the color of their curtains. Another mentioned a lien threat over a garden shed. A third admitted Karen had once told them, rules matter more than feelings. The board called an emergency meeting. Karen didn't attend. Instead, she sent a statement. It was read aloud in the clubhouse, her words echoing through the room without her presence to prop them up. She claimed she had acted in good faith. She blamed miscommunication. She insisted the HOA had assumed ownership responsibilities for years. But when someone asked a simple question, if she didn't own the lake, why did she act like she did? There was no answer. 2 weeks later, Karen resigned. No farewell speech, no explanation to the community. Just a brief line posted on the HOA website. Effective immediately, Karen Whitmore steps down as president. The same woman who once threatened liens and police calls vanished from authority without a sound. Life settled into something quieter after that. The HOA scaled back. Rules were clarified. Reinforcement became cautious. Every decision suddenly required 3 opinions and a legal review. No one wanted to be the next Karen. As for the lake, it stayed exactly where it had always been. On my land, on my deed, on my terms. One morning, I found a handwritten note tucked into my mailbox. No return address. Thank you for standing up to her. We were afraid to. I folded it carefully, put it in the same fireproof safe as the deed, not as proof. As reminder. The dock remained untouched. Solid, legal, unmoved. Sometimes, neighbors ask if I'm worried the HOA might try again. I just smile. Because now, they know the lake doesn't belong to a committee. It doesn't belong to a president. It belongs to history, to paperwork, to quiet patience, and to someone willing to read the fine print while others shout. And every evening, as the sun sets, across the water, I sit on my dock, fishing pole in hand, listening to the sound of a lake that never needed permission to exist.